This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good night, Sharissa Bradley. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful night?
Wonderful. Really wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome. What part of the world are you in right now?
I'm in Southern California, in Temecula, California.
Okay. Is that northern or southern? I'm not familiar with that.
It is the southern westmost point of the United States, right before you get to Mexico, about an hour north of the Mexican border.
Wow. Okay. All right. So it's like you hit San Diego and then you go west.
Correct. And I'm not that much further actually north from San Diego. About an hour. So yeah, about an hour from Mexico area.
Temecula. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I know we were close to the border with the beach and all that place down there, but all right. So tell me, Sharissa, which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at a specific time in history?
Well, I wrote a book about reversing autoimmune disease using food and lifestyle as the way to do it.
Get out of here. Come on. Wow.
Yes. So I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease a few times in my life, 4 total. And after the last one, which made my life pretty much debilitating, I couldn't get out of bed. I used research to figure out the way that the body worked, and I used all of the tools that I had learned to reverse all of the autoimmune diseases in my body. And then I wrote a book about it, and now I coach people using my coaching practice, my book, and also a health lifestyle type podcast.
Wow. Well done. So where's the best place for people to connect with you?
I am on all of social media with my name, Sharissa Bradley, as well as my company, which is Sharissa Bradley, because you get me. And then my book is The Journey Back to Health.
How does it affect children with autoimmune diseases?
Well, I have 2 children myself, and they're my biggest motivators. And for my own children, it was a matter of not ever letting them get to that point. For everybody else, it's a matter of implementing the lifestyle and dietary changes to make sure that children are able to live whole and normal lives without having those type of diagnoses. I don't believe that it is something that we have to carry for our whole life, as I was able to prove with myself. So I think that it's for children, we can get out of that before they're even into their adulthood, and they don't have to live that kind of life.
That's amazing. So how did you come up with the name, the Tea Time Podcast? How did that connect?
Actually today is the 2-year anniversary of my grandmother's passing. And after she died, I was reminiscing about her one day. And as I was cleaning my house, and I was thinking, what is one thing that really brings me closer to her, the bond that I had with her, as well as something that felt really authentic to me. And it also happened a couple of times that week that people had said to me, I really love sitting and having a cup of tea with you. And 2 of my friends had said back to back, my favorite thing to do during the week is come sit at your kitchen table and have a cup of tea with you. And that really came from my grandmother. And that's where the Tea Time Podcast came from, because I wanted to show people that we could sit together and have a conversation over a cup of tea and learn something and take away from that something very powerful. And so each episode on my Tea Time Podcast, I have a topic, and you walk away with actionable steps that you can take to make your life better from 20 minutes of a conversation.
That's wonderful. Now, our internet connection is just a bit off, so amazing audience if you're listening to this, and she's just chopping up just a bit. I think it's improving though, right? So let's see how this goes.
I hope so.
Let's hope so. So, all right, Sharissa, so you're doing some amazing things, right? You have the Triple T podcast, which is the Tea Time podcast. Like, I just
The
couldn't
Tea
let
Time
that go right,
podcast.
right? It's like three T's there,
Yes,
right?
the
And
three T's.
and then amongst that, you've written a book. And please say the name of the book again.
Journey Back to Health. And
Journey
then the
Back.
subtitle is The 6 Steps to Confidently Getting Your Life Back.
Who did you learn all of this from? In terms of not just what you have gone through and your experiences, but it seems as though you're a natural teacher. Who did you learn that from?
Well, I have always taught in some capacity. My mom got sick when I was really little, and I took over a caregiving position of my 2 younger sisters when I was about 10 years old. So already kind of took on that role as being a teacher. I was also classically trained to be a psychology professor. I have a master's degree in experimental psychology and was actually headhunted in my university for a teaching position before I had gotten my master's. So I did spend a few years teaching at the collegiate level as well. Even though I had more kind of non-traditional teaching abilities or opportunities throughout my lifetime. And even though I don't teach in a classroom setting anymore, really my goal in life is just collecting experiences and finding creative ways to share them with people. So that's my number one passion, is teaching.
That's amazing. Tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
Over the last 3 years, I have consistently tried to find ways to help people. And truly, that from the 3-year mark, as soon as I got my last autoimmune diagnosis, I have found my passion for life is sharing with everybody what I've learned. So collecting this information and then finding ways to share it with people. And that has come in with things like social media, things like the podcast, things like doing videos, teaching tutorials. So every day I'm really trying to find ways to share things. And even with my own children, teaching them.
How does all of this make you feel to see where you've been to where you are today?
You know, I've really been looking back a lot lately and having a lot of nostalgia. And as hard as it was to go through everything that I went through, I really have found purpose and drive. And every day that I get to help somebody or change somebody else's life with having those experiences, it really gives me joy, real joy.
Well, amazing audience. Again, you're hearing it live from Sharissa Bradley. You can connect with her at sharissabradley.com. Amazing stuff going on there. She is the host of the Tea Time podcast. Sharissa, let's switch gears for a moment. Now let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Sharissa, what is your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory is actually pretty late in childhood. It's about 10 years old. And I remember I was living in the Sierras, which is a protected national forest in Central California. And my brother and I were carrying a canoe on our head to a lake about a mile from our house. And we spent the day together, just my brother and I, out on this beautiful lake. And canoeing, just floating around on this little beautiful lake and looking at all of the scenery. And I think it stands out so much because it was probably the only time that I can remember being fully present in that moment and nothing else. And there wasn't an agenda. There wasn't something we had to do or accomplish or be. We were just there together, enjoying the sun, the water, the air, all of this. And it is such a vivid memory for me, not just the time, but the air, the way it felt, the heat from the sun, the joy of being with my brother for no other reason but just to be together.
That's amazing. Can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind with that memory?
Sure.
Now we're diving deep here, right? So are you ready?
Yes.
So I love the concept of the canoe And I'm looking at it from the perspective of a canoe that's dug out from a tree trunk, right? And
Okay.
I'm looking at it from your head being within the tree trunk. And I find it to be fascinating that what you've done is applied what is common sense, if you would, the intelligence, if you would, to nature. And to see that your head was in nature, if you would, buried in nature, and the value that you got from that headspace, I found that to be pretty cool in perspective of what you're doing now by helping others
Beautiful.
with autoimmune disease through food, using that as medicine.
Beautiful. I love that interpretation.
Welcome. It was beautiful to see it, like, and especially with your brother, right? Like the combination of
Yes.
family, and now your
Yes.
children have helped you be able to have this experience to help so many other people. That's really great. Wow.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome. If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
Under the Bridge
Oh, there we
by
go.
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, so it's like you're under the canoe and now you're under the bridge.
Perfect.
All right, my friend. Well, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form, so it's yes or no. We're going to move pretty quickly here, though. Are you ready?
Yes.
Sharissa, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to? Are you
Yes.
married? Do you have
Yes.
children? Yes. Do you
Yes.
believe in God? Do you have
Yes.
an inner circle of friends? Do you watch
Yes.
TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week? What
Yes.
about screen time, the phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Less than 8.
Sure. So if you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents who you are, Sharissa Bradley, what would you say that is?
Find something every day that makes you laugh.
Love it. Sure. So this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I just want to say thank you so much for letting me be here today. And if there's anything that you're struggling with at any point in your life, I can be the proof that it can get better and that it can get to be amazing no matter how in the weeds and stuck it seems at that time.
Love it. This is an amazing conversation, amazing audience. I loved it. Sharissa Bradley, thank you for. I said Bradley again. I'm not sure what it is with the Bradley thing, but hey, Sharissa Bradley, thank you for being on. What is inspired by 12-minute convos with Angel Jones?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This segment has been brought to you by Amazel Enterprise.